My goal or plan at the start of 2026 was to deliver 3 videos a week to this channel as I attempt to grow a brand opposite of a brand that has turned into more of a gambling niche with Green Means Go Sports. And today's like the last day of the week because I'm leaving town. And it's been a weird week because, as you can hear, I'm not quite right. I'm a little sick, and we have this ski trip planned about 4 hours away from home. With the impending weather, we've been back and forth on whether we're going, and I woke up this morning with the impression that we were staying home, and that was going to give me some time to get some things done, some things being meeting the quota of videos per week for this channel. And we decided about an hour ago that we are going to go on this ski trip and brave the weather and hope that everything stays south since we're going north, and we'll hope for the best. The problem that presents is we have to leave this house in 45 minutes and I haven't packed a darn thing. That could be a problem to some, but to me it's a challenge, and I didn't want to sacrifice my quota at the sake of sparing a few minutes. So I'm going to give you some picks for this weekend, going to talk about these games a little bit, and we're going to limit it to about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to run downstairs and throw a bunch of stuff in a suitcase and hit the road. All right, how does that sound? The first game is Sunday, 3 o'clock Eastern time, and it is the Patriots and the Denver Broncos, and the biggest news in this one is the fact that Bo Nix will not be playing. I look at this game, and it reminds me of last week. If you'll remember last week, Seattle was about a 7-point favorite. And I know this isn't a gambling channel, but I want to use the spread or the prediction as a way to frame this argument, help you understand it better. The Seahawks were about a 7-point favorite over the 49ers. And there was news that Sam Darnold had an oblique injury and he was questionable. And we didn't see that line move. In other words, we didn't see Seattle go from a 7-point favorite to a 6 to a 5. It stayed pretty solid. And I've been thinking about that, and I thought about that. And I came to this conclusion that Seattle does not really win games on the back of Sam Darnold. He's not a 300-yard, 2 TD passer week after week. The Seahawks' identity is less about Sam Darnold and more about obviously the defense, but also the play calling that surrounds Sam Darnold and the fluidity of the offense and the balance of the offense. And we saw that Sam Darnold had a very lackluster game statistically. Seattle was able to dominate against the 49ers. Now take that same idea and put it up against Denver and the Patriots. And I think Patriots fans may need to be a little bit more worried than they could be with the fact that Bo Nix is out and Jarrett Stidham is in. When we look at this season, Bo Nix probably does more for the Denver Broncos than Sam Darnold does for Seattle, but I would argue that the identities of these teams are pretty similar. They have strong defenses. They have a fairly balanced offensive attack. They don't have an overwhelming amount of playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. I think Seattle's probably has a little bit more in terms of playmakers than Denver does. But Bo Nix has, I don't want to call him a game manager because he can do a lot offensively, but Bo Nix is not the identity of this team. And so when you take him out and you put in Jarrett Stidham, I think there's a bit of an overreaction to who's going to win this game. I have gone back and forth on this, and I want to think about going Patriots, but I am going to take the Denver Broncos to win this game. Here's why. The Patriots, as we know, have struggled defensively for most of the season. The counter-argument to that is against the Chargers and against Houston, they looked stellar. They looked unbelievable, and they made Justin Herbert and C.J. Stroud look like children trying to figure out the defense. The difference is those games were at home. I think that matters. And to be completely frank with you, I don't think Houston and the Chargers really boasted that dynamic of offenses this year. Now, do I think the Denver Broncos boast a dynamic offense? Not necessarily, but I think Denver has some potential to cause some issues for this Patriots team. I think Patriots will struggle in this spot on the road, will struggle against this defense, and I think Jarrett Stidham actually poses a bit of a unique opportunity in that Patriots can't really study film on this guy. I don't know how many NFL starts he has. If I was doing this video for real, I'd do more research and have more time. I want to say he has about 4 starts, all of which have been pretty respectable. So I think this is advantage Broncos, actually, in that Jarrett Stidham will be sort of this puzzle piece that Denver knows exactly where it goes. But the Patriots aren't going to be sure if he's an edge piece, if he's a corner piece, if he's a middle piece, what kind of a piece Jarrett Stidham is. So I think Denver Broncos find a way to get this one done. Second game is Rams and Seahawks, and I'm a Seahawks fan, as you guys know, and I typically go the other way. I typically look for all the flaws in Seattle. If I have to flip that on its head, I will say that the Rams have looked weaker in the playoffs than they did in the regular season. On the road against Carolina, came down to final 2 minutes. On the road against Chicago, came down to the final 2 minutes. And really, if DJ Moore doesn't quit on a route, you might have a Bears-Seahawks matchup. However, I think the familiarity, and I've said it all the time, and I'll say it again, the familiarity that these two teams have of each other is advantage Rams. And the Rams are familiar with playing in Seattle. They historically perform well in Seattle. However, Seattle's defense is looking top-notch. I'm not going to make a pick in this game. Yes, I am. It's the Rams. I'm going to take the Rams. And because I don't want to get too excited. I worry. I worry about what Seattle's going to show up like. I worry that Sam Darnold was able to rely so much on his defense last game that while he didn't have to necessarily see ghosts or exercise any demons, it might be a bad thing that he's probably going to be in a position this game where they're going to need him, and I think that pressure is going to mount, whereas the Rams have just played 2 back-to-back games with the pressure mounting, and they've come out on top. They tasted it. They know how it feels to get the job done. If this game's close, I think it's advantage Rams. Seattle has got to come out and dominate in the first quarter and beyond, and I don't know if they do that. Last week was a bit of an anomaly with Shaheed returning that first touchdown and then their defense getting off to a roaring start. We'll see if they can do it, but I think Sean McVay and the offense of the Rams is certainly more strong and dynamic than the 49ers offense. So I'm going to take the Rams. I'm going to say we're getting a Denver, LA Super Bowl, and I hope I'm wrong. Take care. We'll see you next week if I don't die.